Fantastic. Let's leave that there, folks, and let's go to Diamond. Do you think Diamond is still a diamond in the rough, or there's a rough time here for this lender?
Well, we have to be quite understanding with Diamond Bank. They have some peculiar, what you call peculiar situation. But shrinking the operations from Africa is not necessarily a sign of progress or a sign of strength. But that said, it also means that they have an approach which perhaps is best known to them and not well communicated yet in terms of how they want to make up the numbers, given where the business volume is. They've been suffering a lot of loss, so it's prudent on the part of the management to try to bring everything back while they do some house cleaning. And so for the time being, we're still on a wait and see.
This is what, and this is both to Omotola and to Femi, this is what Diamond Bank said. I'm sure you've read this statement, but again, just to say it's poised to capitalize on the positive macro fundamentals inherent in the Nigerian market, and this includes Africa's largest economy and evolving socio-economic trends given by changing lifestyle preferences in favor of mobile-delivered services and a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Femi, I'm going to come back to you very quickly on this first. What's your take on this statement by Diamond Bank as to the rationale for coming back home? Okay. Femi Awoyemi, are you still there?
Yeah, I thought you were going to come back to me. My take on it is that they seem to have a different interpretation of the market prognosis than most of us. Well, we'll give it to them that they do have an interest in the mobile market. And I think they are trying to move in anticipation of what the regulators will do, given that the regulators are still unclear as to the scope, the size, and to the extent to which players would operate within the market. It seems also that they have a strong, they are laying out their bet on a very, very short case. But that is a function of when and how the central bank really moves to allow them to maximize the opportunities and advantages they see. So what we would worry about is what happens in the integral while all these movements are taking place.
Okay, a quick one. Omotola, do you think Diamond Bank wants to leverage fintech or is sniffing around for this digital mobile money services that is likely to come? The bank already has about 7 million customers in Nigeria. Is this what it speaks to?
Well, for Diamond, they actually have a retail focus in Nigeria. They like to play in the retail segment, and as a result of that, they were exposed to the economic downturn that Nigeria witnessed in the past 3 or 4 years. So we saw NPL ratio rising above 10% as of 9 months 2017, and that has been impacting on their bottom line as well. However, the plans to actually divest from their West African subsidiaries is a way to capitalize their business in Nigeria, because if you look at their full year 2016 reports, their capital adequacy ratio was actually at a regulatory minimum of 15%, and as of half year it's improved madly to 15.4%. So clearly they were facing capital constraints, and the only way to get out of that is, one, either to raise more capital in Nigeria, by either doing a Tier 2 capital raising, maybe an Eurobond issuance, or do a public offer or a rights issue in Nigeria, or rather to divest from some of their non-Nigerian subsidiaries, to find more capital to support their operation in Nigeria. So they took the alternative option, which is divesting. And it's not so surprising, because if you look at the trajectory we are seeing in the Tier 2 segment, about 2 Tier 2 banks have come out to divest, with plans to divest their African subsidiaries. Keystone Bank did this first. They sold down on some of their stakes. Skybank has also come out to say that they will be selling down on some of their subsidiaries in West Africa, like in Guinea and Sierra Leone, to capitalize their business in Nigeria. So clearly, we are seeing the pattern in the Tier 2 segment, where banks who are not so profitable outside Nigeria are coming back to say, no, why don't we just divest and get enough capital to play in a very large retail market such as Nigeria?
Okay. Femi Awoyemi, let's come to you. 2004, and we're talking about the market right now, if you're trying to reinvent the market. The banks were the big boys, and they've always been the big boys. So let's go back to 2004, 2005, bank consolidation. Do you think consolidation, that momentum that we got in 2004 before the meltdown, Talk us through this if you're looking at the banking sector right now.
What exactly is it you want to know? Because if you look at the market segment, the market outlook, as at the time we did the consolidation, it was about the most meaningful strategy we could employ in bringing about building stronger banks who can actually engage the market, offer the credits which were needed for the real sector, but most importantly, provide financially stable banks. But if you look at that, despite the fact that we went through repeated cycles of capital raising, the major challenge the banks suffered was not anything to do with the economic conditions as you had it in Nigeria. It was basically more professional misadventures that we have. If you're looking at what we currently have today, you will find that the banks have come of age in terms of how they've been able to expand outside the shores of Nigeria, especially the Tier 1 banks. And to my friend's comments about Diamond Bank strategy, comparing them with Keystone and Skybank may not actually be so far from the truth, because it actually shows the conditions of these banks. But a quick one concerning Diamond Bank. You do know that Diamond Bank has been able to cultivate about 15 million customers. So what these banks are basically doing is like, look, we might have overstretched ourselves. We do not have the resources in place to actually play these markets in a more efficient way. Maybe if we consider the use of technology and we consider building up our base in Nigeria with our customer spread and deliberately trying to garner low-cost funds, we can actually strategically adjust our books. That is not a bad idea, but it's not something that's going to be a significant push for an upward trajectory for those banks in the next 2 to 3 years. There is a lot more that needs to be done because the games have actually changed. The macro environment has changed. The sectors where funds are coming from have changed. The ability for banks to be financially much more stable, have access to deposit mobilization far much more. It's getting much more tougher.